على آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد, all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the beneficent, the merciful, and salutation to his servant and messenger Muhammad ibn Abdullah, to his family, companions, and all those who follow them until the day of judgment. Brothers and sisters, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make my intention and your intentions for doing what we are doing tonight and always an act which is sincerely for His sake alone, so that bi-idhnillah we may attain the reward and the benefit of this study circle. As the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, that all actions are by intention. إِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, and every individual will attain what he or she has intended. And bi-idhnillah we are still doing the kitab Mulakhas Al-Fiqh by Shaykh Salih Al-Fawzan hafidhahullah, and we were on the chapter regarding مسح على الخفين وغيرهما من الحوائل, chapter regarding wiping of the socks and the similar things. On this issue we said it is a matter that differentiates Ahl Sunnah from Ahl Bid'ah. This matter, even though it is a matter that is found in the books of fiqh, it is also found in books of aqidah. It is also found in books of aqidah. It is one of the things that differentiates us from the people of bid'ah, specifically the Shia. The Shia do not wipe over their socks or khuffayn, and as such it is a sign of Ahl Sunnah, the wiping over the socks. And on this regard we've heard Imam Hassan al-Basri rahmatullahi alayhi saying that he heard from 70 of the companions of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam أنه صلى الله عليه وسلم مسح على الخفين, that he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wiped over his socks. And likewise Imam Nawawi said that the number of companions who have narrated from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam this matter cannot be enumerated. لا يحصون. So it is an issue which is also what's considered to be mutawatir, يعني قطعي, يعني cannot be denied. The reality of it cannot be denied, that this is part of the sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and part of this deen. And as such, if a person refuses the wiping of the socks, then there is something wrong with his aqidah. It is a sign of Ahl Bid'ah and people of deviation. On this matter also we mentioned, as the Shaykh mentioned, أنه رخصة, the hukum of it. He said it is legislated. But is it wajib for one to wipe over his socks? What is the hukum of it? It is a rukhsa. It is a rukhsa. And rukhsa, my brothers, it is an ease. It is a rukhsa means a dalil or evidence that goes against another clear evidence. Clear evidence. Similar to this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanding us. When He commands us to fast the month of Ramadan, to fast, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامِ. So this is a wajib to fast the month of Ramadan. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever sees the month of you, must fast. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala استثنى al-musafir. So the musafir now has got an evidence for him not to fast. So for you not to fast in the month of Ramadan, if you're a traveler, it is a rukhsah, ease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, permission, even though the asal is for you to fast. Similarly, here wiping of the socks is a rukhsah. The asal is for you to wash your feet, but wiping, it is an ease from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the is better, afdal, for a person who is not wearing socks, and intends to do wudu, for them to do a complete wudu rather than putting their socks on so that they can wipe over it. So example, sitting in your sitting room, relaxing, and the time of salah is coming near. You have wudu, but you want to renew your wudu. You're not wearing socks. In this case, it is better that you don't put your socks on so that you can wipe over them, or rather it is better that you wash your feet full and you do complete wudu. And it is better for the person who is wearing socks for them to wipe over the socks if they already had wudu and they broke it while they were wearing their socks. Then in this case, it is better for them to accept the rukhsah and the ease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them by wiping over the socks. So we said this is something which is mutawatir, legislated. The hukum of it is what, my brothers? What's the hukum? Rukhsah. That rukhsah for you to take ease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not obligatory. It is not an act which is obligatory that you must do. It is better in different cases. Hasab. After that, the Shaykh mentioned وَمُدَّةُ الْمَصْحِ. Muddatul Masih. And in that, he says that for a person who is muqim, either you are non-traveler or you're a traveler. For the person who is a non-traveler, who is resident, what did we say? Is the period that he or she is allowed to continually wipe over the socks is what? 24 hours, a day and a night. And for a person who is a traveler, for how long does that individual, how long is he allowed? For 3 days and 3 nights, 72 hours. That's the hadith of Ali radiallahu anhu, where he said, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جعل للمسافر 3 أيام باللياليهن وللمقيم يوما وليلة. That the Rasul ﷺ has prescribed for the traveler 3 days with his 3 nights, and for the non-traveler, the resident, for a day and his night. So now we know that masah is mutawatir. It's from alamat of Ahl Sunnah. We know the hukum, which is what? Rukhsah. We know that the muddah, the period of time that you are allowed to wipe over your socks, for a non-traveler is 24 hours. And for a traveler, 72 hours. Now we need to know, when does this muddah start? When does it start? It starts for both of them. When does it start? Does it start when you first wipe, or does it start from when you first break your wudu? Both of you have chosen the 2 opinions that we mentioned among the scholars. The Shaykh says في حالتين يكون من الحدث بعد اللبس. Shaykh Salih Al-Fawzan Hafidhahullah mentions the opinion where it starts and يكون من الحدث بعد لبس, meaning not when you put it on, but the first time of breaking your wudu. For instance, an example of this is that a person got up for Fajr 6 o'clock in the morning, did his wudu, put his socks on, went to the masjid, prayed Salat al-Fajr, stayed in the masjid, prayed Salat al-Duha, then he continued to stay, read Quran in the masjid, and then Dhuhr comes. He broke his wudu. 12 o'clock in the afternoon. The period of time starts from when? 12 o'clock. When he first broke his wudu. That is the time. Even if he does not wipe and he says, oh, I'm going to pray Dhuhr inshallah 1 o'clock. The time started 12 o'clock. That's the opinion that Shaykh has taken. And this is the opinion of Imam al-Shafi'i, the Shafi'iyya, Imam Abu Hanifa, and one of the opinions of the madhab of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi alayh. The other is that from the scholars, it is those who see that the time starts from the first moment that you wipe. So the person, we said the same example, broke his wudu. The wudu that he prayed Fajr with, he broke it 12 o'clock. And then he waited, he didn't pray, he wants to pray in one of the Pakistani masjids 1 o'clock, Dhuhr, and he makes his wudu 1 o'clock. The time the mudda starts for him now, what? 1 o'clock. Starts 1 o'clock. So for one, the opinion that Shaykh Salih Al-Fawzan here mentioned is that it starts with the hadath, when he first breaks his wudu. And the other opinion is that it starts when you first wipe. First wipe. And this is the opinion of Imam Nawawi, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and Uthaymin and Musa'adi. And for me, I feel comfortable with the latter of the two opinions. After that, we mentioned that it has conditions. Wiping over the socks has got conditions. The first condition is what? That is, remember now we mentioned, my brothers, try and please have this picture in your mind, that wiping over the socks is an issue which is mutawatir. It is a sign of the person being from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. For a person to refuse it, it is a sign of Ahl Bid'ah. What is the hukum of it? It is a rukhsah that Allah has given you, an ease that Allah has given you. When does it start, or how long does it? How long can you continually wipe? For a non-traveler, 24 hours. For a traveler, 72 hours. 3 days and 3 nights. When does the time start? We said, among the scholars, those who say the first you break your wudu, and others who say the first you wipe. And for me, the last of the two I accept. Now, what is the condition of wiping all the socks? What is the condition of you being able to take this rukhsah, ease that Allah has given you? 1. يشترط للمسح على الخفين وما يقوم مقامهما من الجوارب ونحوها أن يكون الإنسان حال لبسهما على الطهارة من الحدث. It is a condition that when you first put the socks on, that you were in a full tahara, that you made full tahara. Try and understand this again. The full tahara here means that you made tahara, which includes washing of your feet. After washing of the feet, it doesn't necessarily mean that you put the socks on directly after it. You can have put the socks on 1 hour or 2 hours later, as long as you have put them on with full wudu. You can put your socks on an hour or 2 or even 1 minute after making full wudu. But the condition is that you put the socks on with full wudu. Full wudu meaning including that you have washed your feet. And this negates a person taking that socks off for some reason. That individual did not break his wudu. But now, if he decides, oh, I need to go to the shop, get something, and he puts his socks back on, can he wipe again? No. Why? When did he put on what kind of wudu did he put his socks on? On partial wudu, not full tahara. Not full, not tahara that includes meaning washing of the feet. As the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the hadith, which is narrated in the Sahihain, one individual, one of the companions, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in, arada naz'a khuffayhi wa huwa yatawadda. That he thought to help the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam take his socks, khuffayn, off. And then the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to him, دعهما فإني أدخلتهما طاهرتين. Leave them, for I have put them on طاهرتين. And from this the scholars, they say, this is the illat that he was telling them to leave them on, because he put them on طاهرتين. Meaning, if he did not put them on full tahara طاهرتين, having washed previously, he would have let him take them off and wash. This is the case. So the first condition, my brothers, that the person must have full wudu. The second condition for you to be able to wipe over the socks is that يشترط أن يكون الخف ونحوه مباحا, that it is something that is halal for you to wear. So for a man, if you are wearing khuf or socks that are made from silk, then it becomes unable for you to wipe over them, because aslan you are not allowed to wear this. You are not allowed to wear this. You are not allowed to wear such a thing. Similarly, some of the scholars say that if you have stolen the socks, similarly you're not allowed to take this rukhsa. You're not allowed to wipe over them. That's the second condition. That the socks that you're wearing must be halal, or the na'alain even. The third condition is that أن يكون الخف ونحوه ساترا للرجل. It must be covering. It must cover the place that you are. It is a must for you to wash. So that negates the type of socks that we see sometimes some of the brothers wearing, that goes below the ankle. What do they call it? Ankle socks. This you can't wipe. This you cannot wipe. It must cover the bit that you must wash. So these are the three conditions. One, that you have put them on in full tahara. Two, it must be mubah, halal for you to wear them. Three, it must cover the bit that you wash. And then the Shaykh adds, and he says, وَيُمْسَحُ عَلَى مَا يَقُومُ مَقَامَ الْخُفَّيْنِ, that you can wipe what takes the place of khuffayn. Khuffayn meaning the leather socks. But here, what you can, meaning whatever takes that place, which is jawrab, also, that is made from suf or غيره, or other than suf, يعني cotton. It doesn't necessarily mean that it must be a leather, like some people put that condition. There is nothing that condition in the sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to say it must be leather. But khuf is anything that covers, meaning even the boots that you wear, that military style, are considered to be like khuf. Even the military shoes that goes all the way up and covers that shin, that is considered to be khuf. Anything that comes in the leg from that side and covers is considered to be. Likewise, you are allowed to wipe over the shoes that you wear. Over the shoes, the normal shoes that you wear, you are allowed to wipe over them. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مسح على الجوربين والنعلين. رواه أحمد وغيره وصححه الترمذي. That the Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم wiped over the na'alain that he was wearing and the jawrab صلى الله عليه وسلم. And now the Shaykh has gone into a new issue. That is the masah ala al-khuffayn. The title was مسح على خفين وغيرهما من الحوائل, coverings. So now he says ويجوز المسح على العمامة بشرطين. It is allowed for you to wipe over a turban. عمامة بشرطين, with two conditions. أن تكون العمامة محنكة. That the عمامة is محنكة. And it is, here it means it is one of those that are rolled around the head. The ones that are worn by the Afghans, the Sudanese, the people from Mauritania, and so on. It is a condition that it is one of those, tight around the head. And the Shaykh says أو تكون ذات ذؤابة, meaning one of those that has the tail of it comes out from behind. Part of it is hanged from behind. When it's rolling around, part of it comes from behind. And these two conditions, both of them, they negate what is worn now in the Arab countries, the scarf, the shimar, and so on, that you cannot wipe over. And on this issue, Umar radiallahu anhu, he says, من لم يطهره المسح على العمامة. Whoever is not purified by wiping over his imamah, the turban, فلا طهره الله. May Allah purify him. Meaning this is something that of the sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did it. So whoever does not consider that to be a form of purification, instead of wiping your head, wiping over the turban, then may Allah not accept his purification, he says. So a person is allowed to wipe over the turban. Now this turban, is it a must? Remember when we said previously, one of the conditions for you to be able to wipe over the khuf was for it to be put on in full tahara. Is it a condition for you to have put your imamah on with tahara? The scholars say no, that condition does not exist with the turban, with the imamah. Another issue which relates to that. Are the women allowed to wipe over the khimar, the head coverings? In this issue, ذهب الجمهور إلى أن المسح الخمار غير مشروع. That it is not allowed. The majority of the scholars, they went with the opinion. But ثبت عن أم سلمة رضي الله عنها that she wiped over her khimar. And in that, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi says, إن خافت المرأة من البرد والنحو. If the woman fears from cold or any other extreme circumstance, like being in a public, then in situation, والنحو مسحت, it is allowed for her to wipe على خمارها. It is allowed for her, instead of taking it off, to wipe over her khimar. فإن أم سلمة كانت تمسح خمارها. أم سلمة رضي الله عنها she used to wipe over her khimar. وينبغي أن تمسح مع هذا بعض شعرها. She should also wipe little bit of her hair with it. Little bit of her hair with wiping of the khimar. أما إذا لم يكن بها حاجة, but if there is no necessity for her to wipe over her scarf or the khimar, ففيه النزاع بين العلماء. It is better for her to leave it, because there is difference of opinion among the scholars whether it is allowed or not. So the sisters, if there is necessity, if there is a need, she is allowed to wipe over her khimar as well, and it does not necessarily mean that she had to have a previous wudu before she put on the khimar or the hijab. And sometimes some of the things that the sisters wear on their head, it's very difficult for them to take off because of the amount of pins and so on they put on. So this is allowed for them. The next issue that the Shaykh went to. So now we've covered Masah al-Khuffayn, wiping over the socks. We've covered also, and that with the conditions and the hukum of it. And then the Masah al-Imamah, the wiping of the turban. Now the Shaykh went to another issue, وَيُمْسَحُ عَلَى الْجَبِيرَةِ, that it is allowed for you to wipe over, what do you call plasterings? No, it's not plaster. Casks. No, the bandages, casks, anything that is supposed to cover a place where there was a wound or so on. And sometimes it's cask in terms of the broken leg or hand that is put on. In this you are allowed. You are allowed to wipe over it. And then the Shaykh says, كل هذه الأشياء يمسح, all of the blasters and all of the casks, all of them they are wiped, بشرط, with a condition, أن تكون على قدر الحاجة, that it does not exceed the bit that you need. If a person, for instance, if your finger was broken, if you broke a finger and they put bandage on it or small cast, whatever, and then somehow this exceeded and they decided we'll put it all the way here. No, it is not acceptable for you. It is not acceptable for you to wipe here, because this is where the haja is. It's got nothing to do with the rest. So if the plaster exceeds the place of necessity, the need, wiping is not enough. You must take it off and make wudu. You must take it off and make wudu. As the Shaykh says here, لزمه نزع ما زاد عن الحاجة. Must remove it. And then the Shaykh says, ويجوز المسح على الجبيرة ونحوها في الحدث الأصغر والأكبر. These plasters, you are allowed to wipe over them in hadith al-akbar and asghar, in minor impurities and in major. Meaning, instead of doing ghusl, you're allowed to wipe over it. And instead of making wudu, you are allowed to wipe over it. وَلَيْسَ لِلْمَسْحِ عَلَيْهَا وَقْتٌ مُحَدَّدٌ. Unlike what we mentioned previously about the socks, wiping over this kind of matters, there is no time limit to it. So if you're wearing a cask for 6 months, you wipe for 6 months. You wipe for 6 months. Doesn't matter. And the Shaykh says, وَالدَّلِيلُ عَلَى مَسْحِ الْجَبِيرَةِ حَدِيثُ جَابِرٍ. And the evidence for this is the hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah radiyallahu anhu, where he says, خَرَجْنَا, we went out, فِي سَفَرٍ, in a travel, فَأَصَابَ رَجُلًا مِنَّا حَجَرٍ. One of the men who was with us was hit with a brick. فَجَجَّهُ فِي رَأْسِهِ, and his head opened up with the damage. And then on the night or the time, ثُمَّ احْتَلَمَ, the man had a dream, wet dream at night. احتلم, he had a dream, and in that dream he ejaculated. فسأل أصحابه, and he asked the companions who were traveling with him, he asked them, هل تجدون لي رخصة هل تجدون لي رخصة في التيمم? Will you find for me an opportunity? The chance is, meaning, do you know anything of evidence? Is there any chance I can make tayammum rather than using water? Meaning because I've got a damage on my head. And they replied, his companions who were with him, replied and they said, ما نجد لك رخصة وأنت تقدر على الماء. We don't find any excuse for you. We don't find any excuse for you to take a rukhsah. How can you make tayammum? There's water. You're able to get to it and the water is available. So sorry. We can't see any way of you making tayammum. فاغتسل. He took the advice and he used the water to have a shower. غسل. فمات. And the water did him damage. So he died as a consequence. فلما قدم على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. When they came to, he says, فلما قدمنا, when we came to the Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم, أخبر بذلك, he was informed of what has happened. فقال, and he صلى الله عليه وسلم said, قتلوه قتلهم الله, they killed him, may Allah kill them. ألا سألوا إذ لم يعلموا, why did they not ask if they did not know? فإنما شفاء العي السؤال, the cure of ignorance is asking. إنما كان يكفيه أن يتيمم, it would have been enough for him to make tayammum. ويعصب على جرحه حرقة ثم يمسح عليها, and for him to cover the place, also to cover the place where the damage was and to wipe over it. It would have been enough for him to make tayammum, or cover the place where the damage was and to make masah. This would have been enough. So the Rasul got angry for those people who gave the fatwa. So this is an evidence in terms of if a person, there is a damage and he is fear of the consequence of using water, he is allowed or she is allowed to wipe. On this, Ibn Uthaymeen rahmatullahi alayhi divided this matter into four. He says, إذا وجد جرح في أعضاء طهارة, إذا وجد جرحا في أعضاء طهارة, if he finds a harm or what do you call it, bruise, يعني جرح meaning wound, if he finds a wound in the places where he supposed to wash, in the tahara, the place that you wash, the hands, the legs, and so on, the head, فله مراتب, it has different levels. One, أن يكون مكشوفا ولا يضره الغسل, for the place to be uncovered, for the place to be uncovered, like for instance we'll use the head, same thing that has happened to that companion, that for the place to be uncovered, ولا يضره الغسل, and that water and washing does not harm him. In this case, فيجب غسله إذا كان في محل غسل, it is a wajib for him to wash if it is the place that to be washed. He must wash it. Water does not harm it, so there is no excuse, so he must wash. Number two, أن يكون مكشوفا, the second type is for the place to be uncovered, but يضر الغسل, يضر الغسل, that for him to wash will harm him. دون المسح, but wiping will not harm him. يعني washing will harm him, but wiping with wet hand will, يعني the place is uncovered. Remember, the place is uncovered. To pour water and to wash will harm him, but to wipe with a wet hand is not going to harm him. In this case, فيجب عليه المسح, it is wajib upon him to wipe. The third is that أن يكون مكشوفا, the third is for the place, the wound to be uncovered. ويضره الغسل, that washing it will harm him. والمسح أيضا, and wiping it also with water will harm him. In any case he cannot wipe, nor can he wash. In this case, فيتيمم له, he makes tayammum, he makes normal tayammum. And the fourth, case, remember the 3 steps, they were all uncovered, the wound was uncovered. Here he says, أن يكون مستورا, for the wound to be covered with plaster or casing, whatever, for the wound to be covered. In this case, يمسح على الساتر, wipes upon the covering, the plaster. ويغنيه عن الغسل ولا يتيمم, meaning in this case, some of the scholars, they say that if a person cannot wash his hand, for instance, and he wipes over the cask that's on the hand, he wipes it, he must also come with tayammum. He washes the rest of the body. He does whatever he needs to do, the wudu. The only problem is that he cannot wash his hand because his hand is in a casket. In this case, some of the scholars, they say he wipes, and on top of that he makes tayammum for the hand that he wipes. Ibn Uthaymeen, he says, and Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah says, لا يجب الجمع بين المسح وتيمم. It is not wajib for you to combine the tayammum and the masah. It's one of the two. Because لأن إيجاب طهارتين لعضو واحد مخالف لقواعد الشريعة. That for someone to say it is obligatory for you to wipe and make tayammum for one part of the body goes against the principles of the Sharia. So as such, Ibn Uthaymeen rahmatullahi alayhi says, if you can wash the place, you wash it. If you cannot wash it, but you can wipe it, you wipe it. If you cannot wash it nor wipe it, you make tayammum and yakfik. You understand, brothers? And then the Shaykh says, محل المسح في هذه الحوائط. Where does he wipe? How does he wipe? Where does he wipe? He says, يمسح طاهر الخف والجورب. You wipe the outside, the top of the khuf, not under the top, the zahir, the bit that you see from the toes to the shin. You wipe only once. This is in terms of the khuffain or na'alayn. وَيُمْسَحْ أَكْثَرُ الْعِمَامَةِ. And in terms of the turban, you wipe most of it, most of the turban. And in terms of the casket, you're wearing a casket on your arm or on your leg where you're supposed to wash. He says, وَيُمْسَحُ عَلَى الْجَمِيعِ الْجَبِيرَةِ. All of it. So it is not enough for you if you're wearing a casket on your hand to do that. Rather, you must wipe all of it. And then the Shaykh says, وَصِفَةُ الْمَسْحِ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ. And the way that you wipe on your khuffain is أن يضع أصابع يديه مبلولتين بالماء على أصابع الرجلين. That you put your hands that are wet with water on the toes of your legs, on the toes of your legs. ثم يمرهما إلى ساقه. And then you bring them up to your shin. So you start from the toe and you wipe like this up to the shin. And then he says, يمسح الرجل اليمنى باليد اليمنى والرجل اليسرى باليد اليسرى. And that you wipe the two hands together like this, the right hand with the right leg and the left hand with the left leg. And he says, وَيُفَرِّجْ أَصَابِعَهُ إِذَا مَسَحْ. And that you open up your fingers when you're wiping. You don't do this, but rather normal, you open them up عادي. And then he says حفظه الله ولا يكرر المسح ولا يكرر المسح. You don't do repetition of masah. It's only once. It is only once. Even if the part that you are wiping is a part that you normally wash 3 times. For instance, this once, wiping once, includes even the jabira, the mask that you're wearing. The imama is already on the head is already, you wipe once, so the imama is once. The legs that you wash normally 3 times, but you only wipe once, 3 times a bid'ah. The innovation. Similarly, the cask on your hand, you only wipe it once. You wipe all of it, and you wipe it only once. باب في بيان نواقض الوضوء. Chapter regarding that which negates wudu. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. Brothers, before we start this chapter, for you to know what breaks the wudu with the masah على الخفين is exactly what breaks here. Meaning, don't have the picture that taking off your socks will break your wudu. That wudu, full wudu, which includes washing your feet, and wudu, which includes masah al-khuffayn, wiping of the socks. This chapter explains what breaks it. Shaykh says, Babun fi bayani nawaqid al-wudu. Chapter regarding that which negates wudu. He says, 1. خارج من السبيل. The first thing that breaks your wudu is what comes out of your private parts. Both ends. Whether it is urine, whether it is semen, whether it's blood, whatever comes out of the 2 parts breaks your wudu. That's the first thing. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائض. يعني, make wudu if one of you has relieved himself, comes from the place of relieving himself, in Surah Al-Ma'idah. And in terms of the mani, we've got other hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Bukhari and Muslim, where the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, hadith Ali radiyallahu anhu, كنت رجلا نعم مذا. No, this is al-madi. Madi also breaks wudu. So anything that comes out of either of the private parts breaks your wudu. As the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, ولا يقبل الله صلاة أحدكم إذا أحدث حتى يتوضأ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept the salah of any of you إذا أحدث, if he becomes in a state of hadath, حتى يتوضأ, until he makes wudu. The second thing that breaks your wudu is زوال العقل أو تقضيته. The losing of the mind, or anything overcoming it, meaning that you faint. وزوال العقل يكون بالجنون والنحو، وتقضيته يكون بالنوم أو بالإغماء ونحوهما. That زوال العقل, losing of the mind, can become by becoming crazy, or a person eating some kind of a medicine that caused him to lose his mind and become into a state of like alcoholic drunkenness. In this case, his wudu is broken automatically. Or taqdiyatu, meaning covering, anything that covers your brain, meaning sleep. When you sleep, you do not know what you're doing. You do not know what you're doing. or you faint, there is nothing wrong with your brain, but at that moment you are not aware. So being in a state of lack of awareness, either by sleep or by fainting or losing your mind by whatever means, breaks your wudu. Breaks your wudu. So 1, whatever comes out of the private parts. 2, losing of the mind. 3, the Shaykh mentions here, من نواقض الوضوء أكل اللحم الإبل, eating of camel meat. Eating of camel meat. And he says سواء كان قليلا أو كثيرا, whether it's a lot or small. لصحة الحديث فيه عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, because there's a clear hadith from the Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم. And the hadith is the hadith where the Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم, he was asked regarding, Ya Rasulullah, shall we make wudu from the meat of the ghanam, sheep? And he said, La. And then he was asked, Ya Rasulullah, shall we make wudu from the meat of the ibil? And he said, Na'am. He said, Na'am, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that you make wudu from this. So far what we mentioned, number 1, what comes out of your private parts. 2, losing of the mind, either, let's just say. Number 2 is losing of the aql, losing of the brain. 3, sleep and likely things, meaning sleep or fainting and so on. Going into sleeping or losing or fainting. So 1 is anything that comes out of your private parts. 2, losing of the mind by becoming crazy or being drunk. 3, sleep or similar things like losing consciousness. Eating camel meat. And this is one of the things that the madhab of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullahi alayh is specific. The madhab of Imam Shafi'i does not say that. The madhab of Imam Malik does not say that. Nor is the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhim ajma'een. They don't say that the meat of the camel breaks your wudu. The only madhab that says this is the madhab of Imam Ahmad. And the evidence he uses is the hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The other scholars, they use another hadith where it is said that عن جابر رضي الله عنه, where he says كان آخر الأمرين من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ترك الوضوء مما مست نار. That the last thing that we know, آخر, he says آخر الأمرين, the last of the 2 issues, what we inherited from the Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم, is tark, to leave making wudu from what has been cooked, with fire. Meaning the companions radiallahu anhum at the beginning of Islam, they used to be required to make wudu from anything that was cooked. For all cooked food, they used to make wudu every time they eat cooked food that has been cooked with fire. They used to break their wudu, and they used to make new wudu. So Jabir radiallahu anhu is saying that has been abrogated, naskh, by the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying, and he's saying, كان آخر الأمرين من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ترك الوضوء مما مست نار, to leave making wudu from that which has been touched by fire. So the madahib and the other scholars, they use this as an evidence to say the eating of the camel meat is from those things that has been touched by fire. So as such, this hadith is after it, so it has been abrogated. They accept the hadith is sahih, but the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told the companion to make wudu from the meat of the camel. But what they say, the hadith has been abrogated by this hadith. Has been abrogated by this hadith. But Imam Ahmad, or the scholars like Imam Sheikh Uthaymin rahmatullahi alayh, they answer that, Sheikh Fawzan, they answer that, they say the hadith regarding making wudu from camel meat is specific. It's specific. And that hadith, that evidence which is specific about the camel meat, cannot be abrogated by general evidence. Specific requires an specific. So unless we have a specific hadith from the Rasul to say that no longer you require to make wudu from ibil, then we continue on the same path, which was, we've got the hadith. So as such, the stronger of the two opinions, even the majority, is on that you don't make wudu. It doesn't break wudu. But the evidence supports this. There's nothing that abrogates it. Because the Rasul in the same hadith says, when he was asked, you will make wudu from the meat of the ghanam, of the sheep? He said no, but the ibil, yes, and they are both cooked. So this is specific. The camel is specific. The camel is specific. So again, quickly, what breaks your wudu? Anything that comes out of your private parts. 2, losing of the mind. 3, sleep and likely things. 4, eating of camel meat. And 5, among the things that break your wudu is touching your private parts. Touching your private parts. Masul dhakr. Touching your private parts. And in this also, there are 2 hadith, and both of them are sahih. Both of them are sahih. One is the hadith of Busra bin Safwan radiyallahu anha, narrated that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِذَا مَسَّ أَحَدُكُمْ ذَكَرَهُ فَلْيَتَوَضَّأ. If any of you touch his private parts, then make wudu. إِذَا مَسَّ أَحَدُكُمْ ذَكَرَهُ فَلْيَتَوَضَّأ. If any of you touch his private parts, make wudu. Listen to this hadith. What does the hadith say? Anyone who, if you touch, any of you touch your private parts, you make what? Wudu. So from that, what do we understand? That touch your private parts, what? Breaks your wudu. Now we've got another hadith of Talq ibn Ali radiyallahu anhu, where he says that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was asked regarding a man who touches his private parts while praying. Previously, people used to wear izar. They used to wear izar, garments that they wrap around on their waist. He says, Ya Rasulullah, if one of us touches his private parts while praying, does that break his wudu? Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied in his hadith, هل هو إلا مضغة أو بدعة منك. It's another organ. Is there not another organ part of you? Meaning that it's like touching your hand. Does touching your hand break your wudu? No. So similarly, touching your private part, your dhakar here, does not break your wudu. So now we've got 2 hadith, both of them sahih. The hadith of Busra and the hadith of Talq radiyallahu anhu ajma'in. One says that you, what? إِذَا مَسَّ أَحَدُكُمْ ذَكَرَهُ فَلْيَتَوَضَّأ. If any of you touch your private parts, you make your wudu. And the order the Rasul is saying, إِنَّمَا هُوَ بَدْعَةٌ. It is part of you, it's another organ of you. So how do we take it? Some of the scholars they say, Wallahi Allah, it's better to make wudu. They have no opinion in this. They don't give. They say both hadiths are sahih. If that what they do normally, my brothers, if 2 hadiths seem to contradict one another, come face to face. The first rule that they follow is they try first of all find a way that they can act upon both hadiths. Try and find a way of implementing both hadiths. If they cannot, act upon both hadith, and the both hadith seem to be interlocked, then what they will look at is to see which one is sahih, which one is stronger, and they will act upon the stronger one of the two. In terms of the strength, if they cannot be separated, in terms of the strength, if they cannot be separated, then what they will look at is the date, the tariq, when this companion who's narrating this hadith, when did he become Muslim, when is the likelihood he heard this hadith. So they will try and look at which one is the before and which one is the lesser, the latter of the two. And they will accept the latter, and they will say the prior has been abrogated by the latter. But if they cannot be separated by date, so the beginning is to act upon both. The second is to see the asah, which one is the stronger of the two. The third is to see in terms of tariq, which one is abrogated, which one. If these three levels cannot be taken, then you say, using the other evidence, rajih one of them and uskut from the other. You take one of them, you keep quiet from the other. You accept one of them and you leave the other, you keep quiet. Don't criticize the issue. These two hadith are exactly on that boat. These two hadith are exactly on that boat. Cannot be separated. So as such, some of the scholars, what they say is that, they try and study the circumstance. They say a person when he's in his salah, his full concentration of ibadah, it is unlikely that he will be thinking about shahwa. So maybe he touched his private part out of scratching and so on. He touched his private part. He's not really intending to out of desire. But a person who is outside his salah is most likely to touch his private part with desire. So some of the scholars, they say the fariq between the two is that one is by desire and the other is by lack of desire. Meaning that if you touch your private part with desire, it breaks your wudu. If you don't touch your private part with desire, without desire, it does not break wudu. Like a person in the toilet, made ghusl. He wants to pray, made full ghusl, and he's drying himself up using the towel. His hand goes on his private part while drying up. Do I make wudu now? On that opinion, it doesn't, because you did not touch it with the near of shahwa, but not shahwa. So in that case, that is the opinion, and this opinion, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he says, وَالْأَظْهَرُ أَيْضًا أَنَّ الْوُضُوءَ مِنْ مَسِّ ذَكْرٍ مُسْتَحَبٌ لَا وَاجِبٌ. It is better, beneficial, recommended that you make wudu by touching your private parts, and it is the ikhtiyarat of Imam or Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmahullah ta'ala. So brothers and sisters, among the things that break your wudu: 1, anything that comes out of your private part; 2, sleep; 3, losing of the mind, that includes fainting and so on; 4, masadak, or what would you say, eating common meat; 5, touching your private parts; and 6, among the things that breaks your wudu is massul mar'ah, touching a woman, touching your spouse, your wife, or vice versa. In this case, touching a woman breaks your wudu if it is bishahwa. It is bishahwa. And the proof of this is the hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where Aisha radiallahu anha, she says that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to kiss his wives, and then he used to go to pray the salah. So the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands to make wudu illa mastuma nisa, even if you touch the woman, make wudu from it, then in this case this ayah is being interpreted and understood by the action of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So touching here is meant by sexual touching, sexually touching her. But if it's just a kiss and say salam alaikum or goodbye or see you later, his wife, this is fine. This is fine. Even some of the scholars, like the madhab of Imam al-Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi, until now in some of the countries, literally, if he's, even his wife, if you put it down, put the paper down, don't touch me, I've got wudu. So, you're going to break my wudu, literally. That is how it is. That's how it is. Okay. Among the things that break your wudu, my brothers, is ridda. A person leaving the religion of Islam, apostating from the deen. Breaks his wudu. This individual, if he goes back, if he goes out of the deen, this breaks his wudu. In terms of this issue, there are certain things which are agreed upon and certain things which are not agreed upon. Among the things that are agreed upon is anything that comes out of the private parts. Sleeping, deep sleep. Because the companions radiallahu anhum, it is said that they used to wait for the salah until Maghrib or Isha, until their heads fall. Yani literally, they would be sleepy and like this. And then they used to get up and pray Salat al-Isha, not making wudu. So that kind of sleep, where you are like on the edge, does not break your wudu. What breaks your wudu is the sleep where you go. You're not here. You're gone. In that case, because the reason is that you've lost your mind, you do not know what's going on in your body. An air could have come out or could not have, so here you've lost your mind. So as such, deep sleep. Not in sleep, but deep sleep. So this is agreed upon. Deep sleep, losing of the mind, either with becoming crazy or so on, and anything that comes out of the private part. Among the things which are not agreed upon is eating of the common meat, touching your private parts, and touching of your spouse. Okay? And ridda is also agreed upon. These are the matters that break your wudu, barakallahu feekum, brothers. And this includes even the masah. The masah, these are the things that break the wudu that you have done masah. Some of the people think that by taking off the masah, does it break your wudu? No, it does not. It does not. Lastly, the Shaykh, one of the things that he added on here, he says, وَقَدْ بَقِيَتْ مَسْأَلَةٌ مُهِمَّةٌ تَتَعَلَّقْ بِهَذَا الْمَوْضُوعِ. There is a important matter that is linked to the issue. He said, وَهِيَ مَنْ تَيَقَّنَ الطَّهَارَةِ. Whoever is certain of his purification. ثُمَّ شَكَّ فِي حُصُولِ النَّاقِضِ مِنْ النَّوَاقِضِ. And then doubts whether he broke it or not. ماذا يفعل? What does he do? What does he do? A person knows that he has made wudu at the house. He comes to the masjid and then he says, Subhanallah, did something come out of me now? Did I break my wudu while he was driving down or walking down? He doubts in this case. The Shaykh says, ماذا يفعل? What does he do in this case? لقد ثبت عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. That he's been narrated from the Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم. Muslim عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. That the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم says, إذا وجد أحدكم في بطنه شيء. إذا وجد أحدكم في بطنه شيئا فأشكل عليه أخرج منه شيء أم لا. And then he becomes that. If he finds something, a feeling in his stomach, and then he says to himself, has something come out of me or not? The Rasulullah says, فَلَا يَخْرُجْ مِنَ الْمَسْجِدِ. Don't let him go out from the masjid, meaning from the salah, حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ صَوْتًا أَوْ يَجِدْ رِيحًا. Then let him not leave his salah until he hears clear, 100% certainty, a sound, or smell that something did come out of his private part. This hadith, the scholars, they have a qaida, principle, that they base upon this. And this qaida is al-yaqeen la yazul bishak, that certainty cannot be negated by doubt. In anything, this qaida is beautiful, my brothers and sisters, memorize it. Certainty cannot be negated by doubt. In anything that you do, you always base the hukum upon what you are certain of, and you leave what you are doubtful of. When a person makes wudu in his house, and he's traveling towards the masjid, and he doubts whether or not he broke his wudu, what is he certain of? That he made his wudu. What is he doubting? That he broke it. What does he base his hukum on? What he's certain of, which is tahara. Similarly, and this qaida will go into any mawdu', any issue. For instance, when you are praying, you are on your third rak'ah of the salah, and you say to yourself, is this my second or is this my third? Is this my second or is this my third? What are you sure of? Two. But this, you're sure that this is, it is not. This is, you're sure of that you've done one. You've done one. And you are doubting whether or not you've done two, or and you're starting three. So you base your hukum on what? On the lesser of the two, which is two, on the second. You're sure one, so you're definitely sure what after one is two. So you base your hukum on that. If a person says he gets up for fourth rak'ah, he finished 3 rak'ahs, and then when he stands up he says, subhanAllah, is this my third or is this my fourth? What is he sure of that he has done? He has done, he's sure of that he has done 2. And he doubting whether or not this is his third or fourth. So he bases his hukum on what? Third. He makes it his third, because he has done definitely sure. So you always base your hukum on what you know. If a man is married and he says, subhanallah, last night I was so angry with my wife, I don't know whether I've divorced her or not. What is he sure of? That he was married. What is he doubting? Whether he divorced her. What does he base his hukum on? That he is married. Subhanakallah bihamdika tabarak ismuka ta'ala jalla wa ala. No. No, it does not include the barrier. No. It does not, that does not break your wudu. That does not break your wudu. لس الزوجة بحائل. نعم والردة. نعم بعض العلماء يقولون كذا. بعض العلماء يقولون أن من غسل الميت حتى مع هذا، شوف، لا هذا ما ينقض. الآن من إذا لمست شيء نجس، يعني الآن كان عندك طفل تنظفه، خرج منه شيء وتنظفه تطهره. الآن لو يعني لمست هذا الشيء نجس، هل نقض الوضوء؟ لا ينقض الوضوء، ولكن ايش تفعل؟ تغسل خلاص، يعني تنظف خلاص، لكن لا ينقض الوضوء. يعني هذا لا ينقض الوضوء. يعني ليس my brothers, this issue about in terms of what breaks your wudu does not increase and does not decrease. Not everything that is haram breaks your wudu. If a person now smokes, has he broken his wudu? No. If a person swears, has he broken his wudu? No. If a person now puts his hand in najasa, in changing his child's nappy, and he puts on the najasa on his hand, has he broken your wudu? No. But what does he need to do? Remove the najasa, but it does not break your wudu. Now, either one hand, the kayfiyah is not mentioned. In terms of one hand or two hands, what's important is that you wipe. That you wipe with one hand or both of them together. Doesn't matter. Turn off. Is it on? Sorry, sisters, we forgot about you. One of the brothers asked whether or not touching najasa, does that break your wudu? And he took that in terms of why do some of the scholars say that when you are washing the dead body, some of the scholars say a person who washes the dead body must make wudu from it. And there is no evidence for this. But he says that because that the person, when he's being washed, sometimes najasa comes out from it. And does that mean, if that's the case, that if you touch najasa, it breaks your wudu? No, it does not break your wudu. Similarly, if you're changing your child's nappy and you put your hand in there, all you have to do is just wash off that najasa from your hand, but it does not break your wudu.